My brother moved into my house without asking, then tried to evict me. I was standing in the kitchen halfway through reheating leftover lasagna when my phone buzzed. "Hope you don't mind, staying at your place for a bit. Love ya, Dylan." I stared at the screen for a full 10 seconds, then read it again. Was this a joke, a meme, some sort of bizarre autocorrect fail? Dylan had a history of poor decision-making. The kind of guy who once tried to trade his car for a tattoo and a surfboard in Ohio. But even for him, this was peak insanity. I figured it was one of his classic dramatic exits from some failed situation. A breakup, a roommate fight, who knew? But staying at my place? I typed back, "What? Then you mean for the weekend?" No reply. 15 minutes later I heard my front door unlock. Now, let me clarify something. I live alone. In a quiet little house I built up from scratch in Oak Ridge, a calm suburb where drama doesn't usually show up unannounced with a duffel bag and a smug smile. Yet there he was, Dylan, my younger brother by 6 years, rolling a suitcase behind him with one hand, balancing a cardboard box in the other, and wearing mirrored sunglasses indoors like he was auditioning for a low-budget action movie. Behind him waddled a fat orange tabby cat with a permanent scowl. "Yo!" he called cheerfully, dropping the box with a thud on the floor. "Your spare key still works. That's cool." I blinked. "You still have that key?" "Of course. You gave it to me when you went to Mexico that one time. For the plants, remember? That was 3 years ago." He grinned. "Guess I'm just super responsible." The cat, later introduced as Beef, proceeded to march into the living room and immediately scratch at the base of my leather couch. I winced. Dylan didn't notice. He was already busy opening kitchen cabinets like a raccoon at a buffet. "So," I said slowly, "are you okay?" "Totally, just crashing here for a bit. Needed a vibe shift, you know?" I didn't know. And I especially didn't know how to say no. That was always my problem with Dylan. He had a way of making every ridiculous thing sound like it was no big deal. Like the time he borrowed my car and returned it with glitter in the back seat and an expired parking ticket under the wiper. Or when he used my Netflix account to watch Tiger King under a profile labeled, "Your Mom." He never asked exactly, he just appeared. And now, apparently, he lived here. "Just a couple days," he added, flopping onto my favorite armchair like he owned it. "Thanks, man, you're the best." He gave me that smile, the one that used to get him out of trouble in high school. Charming, dimpled, and utterly full of crap. I opened my mouth to protest, to set boundaries, to demand answers, but instead I said, "Okay. A couple of days." He grinned even wider and tossed me a beer from the fridge, that he had already opened. By day 3, I started noticing small things. A strange new pillow with a cartoon cat face showed up on my couch. The hallway smelled like sandalwood, the kind that gives you a headache if you're not spiritually prepared. A framed photo of Dylan shirtless with a surfboard appeared on the bookshelf next to my carefully arranged collection of nonfiction. By day 5, my living room had been redecorated. I came home from a coffee run to find Dylan dragging my TV stand across the floor, a trail of scuffed wood in its wake. "Bro," he huffed, "the TV looks way better on this wall. Feng shui or something." "You're welcome." He had also moved the couch, added a beanbag chair that smelled suspiciously like weed, and hung a tapestry that said "good vibes" only over the window, completely blocking the light. "Dylan," I said, rubbing my temple, "you said a couple of days." "Yeah," he said, like I was the unreasonable one. "But you know, it's chill. I'm in between leases." "You'd want me to be homeless?" "You have a car." "Exactly. It's for driving, not living in." He patted the beanbag like it was a loyal dog and offered me a smoothie. "That better not be my blender," I said. "Nope. Brought my own," he said proudly. "It's a Ninja, industrial grade." I stared at the machine on the counter. It looked like it could blend concrete. Next to it were 2 slow cookers, an air fryer, a French press, and something that might have been a dehydrator. My once minimalist kitchen now looked like a showroom for chaotic cooking appliances. Then came the football, loud, constant, with Dylan yelling at the screen like he was coaching from my living room. And the soups. He started making these bizarre, pungent soups every night. Cabbage, garlic, something with fermented shrimp. The house smelled like a haunted deli. To top it all off, one morning I reached for my favorite mug, black ceramic, simple, solid, perfect weight in the hand, and found it gone. In its place was a white mug with sparkles and glitter text that read. I stared at it in disbelief. "Where's my mug?" I asked. Dylan looked up from the couch where he was eating cereal directly from the mixing bowl. "Oh, that old black one? It cracked. Might have dropped it. Sorry, man." I blinked. "And this?" He beamed. "Found it at Target. Thought it was cute." Later that night, he walked into the kitchen wearing nothing but a towel and socks, humming loudly and dripping water on the hardwood floors. That was the final straw. "Hey, Dylan," I said carefully. "Would you mind maybe wearing actual clothes in shared spaces?" He froze mid-hum. "Wow," he said slowly, eyes wide. "Didn't think you were so uptight." "I'm not uptight, I just... No, it's fine." He threw a dramatic shrug. "I guess I'll just be less comfortable in your house, even though I thought we were family." I stared at him, towel and all, and felt my brain short-circuit. The guy had moved into my home without asking, filled it with cat pillows and soup fumes, destroyed my mug, and now I was the bad guy? I walked away, teeth clenched, and the best roomie ever. Mug stared at me from the counter like it was in on the joke. By the time the first party happened, I had already stopped using the living room. It was Saturday afternoon. I was in my office, the one room still untouched by Dylan's interior vandalism, trying to finish a report for work when I heard a deep bass thump from the hallway. At first I thought a car was passing by with the windows down. Then came the shouting, then laughter, then the unmistakable sound of a beer can cracking open, inside the house. I stood up, walked into the hallway, and there they were, strangers. In my kitchen, on my couch, in my bathroom. "What the hell?" "Caleb!" Dylan's voice boomed from the backyard. He pushed open the sliding door and raised his arms like a game show host. "Dude, meet the crew!" The crew included at least 15 people, some barefoot, one in a Spider-Man onesie, and a girl who'd brought her own karaoke mic. Someone was pouring vodka into a blender, my blender. The backyard smelled like weed, cheap beer, and Axe body spray. "You invited people over without asking me?" I asked, my voice tight. "It's a chill hang, bro. You never have people over. This place needed some life." I took a deep breath. "You said you'd be here a couple of days." He waved me off. "It's just a few friends. Relax, man. Have a drink." The doorbell rang. More guests. Later that night I found someone passed out on my couch, hugging the cat Beef like a teddy bear. The fridge had been ransacked. All that remained was an expired bottle of sriracha, half a Red Bull, and what I think was a pizza crust stuck to the light inside. Dylan walked in, grinning. "Legendary night, huh?" "No," I said flatly. "This is my house. You didn't even ask." He blinked, then let out a theatrical sigh. "Wow. You're really being aggressive right now." "Aggressive? I'm setting a boundary." "Look," he said, raising his hands. "I just thought you'd be supportive for once. You know, like a brother." He looked genuinely hurt, like I had wronged him. "You've changed," he muttered, and walked off. Later that night, I took out the trash and ran into Maya, my neighbor. Maya was standing by her mailbox in pajamas, holding a container of what smelled like cinnamon rolls. She raised an eyebrow, then smiled. "So, your boyfriend moved in?" I choked. "What?" She gestured toward the house where lights were still flashing. "Just figured." Loud music, weird candles, shirtless dude watering the lawn with a White Claw in hand. I groaned. "That's my brother." "Oh," she said, clearly amused. "Well, your brother just tried to break into my mailbox thinking it was his Uber Eats." I sighed, defeated. "I'm so sorry." She handed me the cinnamon rolls. "You look like you need these more than I do." I laughed. "You have no idea." She smiled and headed inside. I stood there a moment longer, holding the warm container, watching someone in my house twerk in the window. And Beef, the cat, just stared at me from the sill like he paid the mortgage. It didn't take long before Dylan started making life easier around the house, by which he meant changing everything without telling me. First, I discovered he had made a duplicate key. I found out when I came home one evening, keys in hand, and heard the unmistakable click of the front door unlocking, before I even reached it. He grinned when I asked. "Bro, chill. I just made a spare key." "For convenience." "Convenience for who?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Come on, man, you live too stiff. I'm just helping you open up." That phrase stuck with me, "You live too stiff." Next came the drilling. I was in the kitchen when a loud buzz 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 started up from the bathroom. I thought maybe he'd broken the shower again, but no. It was a power drill. I peeked around the corner. Dylan was standing there with a level and a half assembled shelf. "Needed extra storage," he said, like this was completely normal. "For your shampoo and, stuff." I opened my mouth to protest, but Dylan shot me a look. Part smirk, part challenge. Before I could say more, he held up the drill and winked. "Relax, man, it's just a shelf." I tried to laugh it off, but the shelf looked like it belonged in a college dorm, not my carefully curated minimalist bathroom. One night, the real kicker. I was getting ready for bed when I heard a frantic meowing outside the bedroom window. I opened the balcony door, and there was not Beef, but my other cat, Murphy, trapped outside. The door had slammed shut behind him. I banged on the glass, calling Dylan's name. He appeared at the door, towel wrapped around his waist, a guilty smile on his face. "Oh, hey, I forgot to close the door all the way." Thought Murphy was chill. "Chill?" I repeated. "He was outside for almost an hour." "Relax, Caleb. You worry too much." His words stung more than I expected, like I was the one overreacting. That weekend my phone rang. It was Mom and Dad. "Caleb," Mom said gently, "try to be kinder. He's just staying temporarily." "You've always been a bit of a nag," Dad chimed in. "Let him help you loosen up. It's good for you." I felt the walls closing in. Was I really the bad guy, the uptight older brother refusing to share his home? Or was Dylan slowly rewriting the rules without me noticing? "You live too stiff." That phrase echoed in my mind every time Dylan left another new improvement around the house. I wasn't sure if I was losing control or just losing patience. I got back from my walk that evening, expecting the usual quiet comfort of my home. Instead, my eyes landed on an envelope lying smack in the middle of the kitchen table. No note. Just the kind of official-looking envelope that makes your stomach twist. I tore it open, scanning the papers inside. Legal documents. My brother Dylan had filed a claim for right of residence, arguing that the house was a family gift and he had just as much right to live there as I did. I stared at the page, heart pounding. A gift? I flashed back to all the late nights juggling 2 jobs, scrimping and saving just to make the down payment on this house in Oak Ridge. A place I built with my own hands, piece by piece. The quiet nights working overtime, the calls with mortgage lenders, the endless spreadsheets tracking every cent. That was my home. I called Dylan, anger bubbling under my skin. "Well," he said coolly, "I live here now, so legally I can challenge this." Challenge it? He was trying to kick me out of my own house. My patience snapped. No more jokes, no more temporary stays. It was time to draw a line in the sand. I swallowed hard and whispered to myself, "The countdown starts now." After the shock of Dylan's little legal stunt, I knew I couldn't just sit back and hope this all blew over. Nope, it was time to get serious. First stop, a lawyer. I met with a sharp attorney who looked at the papers Dylan filed and then at me with a raised eyebrow. "Your brother's playing dirty," she said, "but you have the paperwork to prove ownership. We'll file a response and make sure the court knows who really pays the mortgage." Feeling a bit more confident, I went home and decided to take matters into my own hands, literally. Within days I had more than enough footage to fill a sitcom. And girls, lots of them, laughing, playing loud music, treating my living room like a weekend club. But the best part? Dylan called me the renter like I was some Airbnb guest who'd overstayed his welcome. One afternoon I dug a little deeper and found out something else. Dylan had listed my house as his residence at the DMV, meaning he could vote here, get a driver's license, and maybe even cause more legal headaches. I sat back at my desk, feeling a mix of disbelief and determination. This wasn't just about furniture rearrangements or weird soup recipes anymore. This was war. I drafted an official eviction notice, ironically enough, and backed it up with all the evidence I'd collected, texts, videos, and the mortgage documents. I knew one thing, Dylan wasn't going to win this game. Next stop? Courtroom showdown. The day of the hearing finally arrived. I showed up early, suit pressed, heart steady but ready. "Dylan?" He strolled in like it was a casual morning. Pajama pants and a t-shirt, no lawyer in sight. Classic Dylan. The judge looked over at him and then to me, giving a nod that said, "Let's get this done." I laid out everything, the deed to the house, mortgage statements, all my payments, proof that I was the one who bought and maintained the place. I played the videos I'd recorded, Dylan hosting noisy parties, calling me the renter, and that priceless clip of him inviting girls over like it was his bachelor pad. I even had Maya come in as a witness, ready to confirm how out of control Dylan's visits had become. The judge listened patiently, flipping through the documents. Then, with a firm but fair tone, he said, "Mr. Dillon, you have 72 hours to vacate the premises." I felt a rush of relief. Finally, some justice. That evening, I threw a little celebration. Nothing wild, just a quiet good riddance party. No Dylan, no chaos. Just me, Maya, and a pie she baked. Homemade, apple cinnamon, the kind that makes you forget all the stress. And on the table, right in front of me, sat that ridiculous mug Dylan had put out when he moved in. Best roomie ever. I raised it like a trophy and smiled. This house was mine again. Dylan finally packed up and left, dragging his bags, and that infernal cat beef, out the door. I thought it was over. But a few days later I noticed some of my tech gadgets were missing. The smart speaker from the living room, my headphones, even my watch collection. That was the last straw. I called the police and filed a report. It wasn't about revenge. It was about boundaries. Dylan got a subpoena for theft. When Mom found out, she called me, voice trembling. "He's always been spoiled," she said softly. "I'm sorry, Caleb. We should have said something sooner." I didn't know what to say. Family was complicated, but so was standing up for yourself. That evening, I sat on the porch trying to breathe again. Maya showed up with a cherry pie, warm, sweet, and perfect. We sat there, laughing about everything and nothing. I told her, it took me losing my peace to realize how much it meant. And no one's messing with that again, not even my own blood. She smiled and raised her slice, and that was that. So yeah, my brother tried to steal my house. And for a while I thought maybe I was overreacting, but no. I was just underestimating how far some people will go if you let them. Lesson learned.